Hello and welcome to this video. I'm going to make a very brief and simple introduction to F Sharp and some of the things you need to understand before you can start programming more complicated stuff, which I will then gradually work towards. This is a video to help me study for my exam because I failed this course, so what better way than to try to teach other guys this language in order to help me understand this language better. Alright, if you have not coded before, you wanna go to this link and you want to download either Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. You can use both, and then you should download .NET. It doesn't matter which version, as long as the version you're downloading is the same version you're using. For Mac, it's recommended to use JetBrains Writer, but I'm pretty sure that is a client you need to pay for. I'm not too sure. I get it through school. Yeah. Anyways, just wanted to show you, and I will link it in the comments. So I'm going to show it on JetBrains Writer, but here you want to hit File and make not a new. This will just open a folder. Make a new solution, which will make a new project. You gotta name that project. I've already made a project. And then these two you don't need to worry about unless you want to have a Git. And if you don't know what that is, you shouldn't worry about it. This is the .NET framework. These two also need to match. And then you want to hit F Sharp because I'm programming in F Sharp, functional programming. And then you hit create, and then you will get what I'm gonna show now. So out here in the left corner, that's your files. You don't need to worry about the dependency. You go into the program. This is the program. This is the standard you get. You hit the green button and it runs the program. If it successfully prints hello from F Sharp, you have succeeded. You can print hello world. If it doesn't, you need to fix it. And I can't help you with that. Anyways, that's how you run the program. You click there and it runs the program. Now, we wanna write some code. F Sharp works like it has something that's similar and also some stuff that isn't similar. But let me show you how you make a function. You use expression. So every function, everything you make is function. So we say let duplicate string now this is the name of the function we are creating, and then we can take a variable which be a string, and then we say that's equal to. Now we can take our string and do stuff with it. For example, adding the two strings together. Now, as you can see here, F Sharp think it's an integer. That's because it's automatically thinking, what could it be? So right now, this will not accept a string. You can see that here. That's not what it will take. And if you mark it, you can also see that it takes an integer and gives an integer. It's because it thinks this one right here is an integer and not a string. The way to fix this is to simply typecast it. So now we are saying that this is a string. Now it understands that we are plussing a string with a string, getting a new string. Now we want to print this. There's two ways we can do this. We cannot just type like we did before, print fn. What did we call it? Duplicate string. We cannot type this, though this. We would have to put it in a parentheses, but we would still not be able to do this because F sharp doesn't see it as a string, it sees as a, where did it go? I don't know why it won't show the error. Normally it shows the error when you're cursing hovering over. So why it doesn't want to do this is because it's not a string, but we can fix that by adding s. Whoop. I think I messed this up. There we go. So now we are telling F sharp that this is a string. We want to print it. Now, because there's no errors, we can run the program. And now we duplicated the string. Now, another way to do this is to, instead of calling it in here, we might want it to call it outside. Then we would have let new name be equal to, and then instead of calling the function in here, we can just call new name, because then we are calling the function from new name, we are calling the function duplicate string, and in duplicate string, we are duplicating the string. So this will work exactly the same. Now what wouldn't work was if we didn't have this one. Even though it knows it's a string, it's still not there we go. It's of text writer format, and that's not compatible with the console printer. So let me just go back. Now we have this. Now I'm gonna move on, and we're gonna do some work with arithmetic expression, numbers and integers. So just like before, we can, if we want to add 5 to a number, we can say let add 5, and then we need to take something, let's call it x, and then just like other code languages, it's just x plus 5. Or we added 5. I think there's a space there. This means, again, it takes an integer, x is an integer, and it returns an integer. And again, we can see that if we mark it add 5, it takes an integer and returns an integer. We can also do it with minus 7, and then we of course need a variable. Now, you don't need to worry about having the same variables, because as long as you don't have multiple of the same variables in the same, what's it called, function, you shouldn't worry. So we can say x minus 7. And you can also write it like this. It's just a preference to have spaces. And again, takes an integer, it gives an integer. We can also add 2 numbers. And here we cannot say xx, because suddenly it can differentiate between the two, and then we would just have to have 1x. But if we want to different numbers, we just need to differentiate between them. So this function now takes 2 integers and returns 1. It takes 1 integer, 1 more integer, and then it returns 1 integer. I don't know why it's being read. So you can see here, it takes x to int, and then it takes y to int and returns int. So this is F# way of writing. And it's simply just going from left to right, what it takes in, and then what it's left out. You can do some more complicated things with functions inside of functions, which I will get to in another video. Let multiply 2, then we need a number, another number, a variable, or it's actually an expression. In F# we only have expressions, but it's easier to understand it as a variable because it's a variable. And then we gonna add a squared, because there's a way to do that. There's two ways to do that. So you can either say x times x, or you can do this. Oops. And then the number you want the power to. This is equivalent to x raised to 2. And also, this is how we write comments in F#. If you write 2 lines, okay, that works too, but here you can write comments in the code. And then 2 lines for lines. But this, I could place this here and the code would still work, for example. And we can run it, the program. As long as the program runs, it compiles. If it doesn't compile, there's an error you need to fix. And then you can have errors, of course, in the functions you write, even though they can compile. So if we want to do something with these numbers, we can. Now we can say we want to add 5. We can do like making a new function. So let new number be equal to add 5. Now this will give us an integer. We can also do that we also want to minus this integer we get from this, we want to minus. So if we say minus 7, we can put this inside, because then minus 7 will take the result from add 5. Another way to write this is something called piping. And you can do this as 2 ways, which will behave the exact same way. You can say add 5, and then you can take the result from that and pipe it into minus 7, and minus 7 will then take the result from add 5 and return it. Another thing you can do is function composition, where you make a new function based on the functions you have. And of course your functions can be named the same. So here we want to first add 5, and then we want to minus 7, and then now we just put 5 into the new number function. Stay with me. Let's print it and see that it's all the same. We cannot use the same as before because we were working with strings. Now we are working with numbers or integers. This won't work. Therefore, we will use an A. Then we can convert integers to strings that is printable by the console. So right now, I will be printing this right here. That's the normal one. I hope you can understand what's going on there. 3. So if we have done everything correct, the next 2 should also give 3. Number 1. Free. And then number 2. Because number 2 is a function and doesn't have anything input, we need to give it an input here. And I forgot to add parentheses. There we go. 3. Alright. Now, this I will show again, and you can do this much more complicated, and you can pipe as many functions as you want and results. I could also actually, you can pipe a number into stuff. This works as well. I can pipe numbers as well, and you can pipe and do as many function compositions as you want. You are even allowed to now I wouldn't recommend doing this. Then I would recommend you write a loop instead and an F# recursion, but I will talk about that in another video. Then you can say this will be added. I'm just saying that there's possibilities. And it's 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. Alright, the last thing I want to show you guys is F# interactive. Because right now we're just running the program, but there's actually an even easier way to do it. So we have all these functions. If we mark them and you hit, if on a MacBook, Option, Enter, you can, I'm sorry this is very small, but then you choose this one, send to F# interactive. Now all these functions will be in F# interactive, and if you go up you can see them here. And now you don't need to type anything. You can just say add 5 5. That's 10. You can say okay, you also need to spell correctly, and then you get the result. So send to F# interactive, and then what you can see here is the 3 functions. And then you have this val that gives us the value. Why it gives us the value is because both new number and new number 1 is already calculating something. This is taking 7 from 5 plus 5. And this is doing the same. And that's why we get the result here. The last one is a function. So we just get the function and the type. It takes an integer and receives an integer. So 17. Why do we get 17? Because 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 2 is 17. Possible to take an integer and return a, what's it called? A string. Let me show you. So we convert stuff, and then we need to remember our let keyword, and then we take x n, which is a number. Then we say this is equal to the number is space. Then we say plus n. We can do this, that if we make this an integer, then we just need to make this a string. And this way you can convert an integer to a string by having it in a parentheses. So now if we run this, we can double check it works, send it to F# interactive, and then we can just say convert stuff 5. This should very well give us the number 5. And as you can see, it takes an integer and returns a string. This should give us the number as 5. I did not spell that correct. It's because you also need to be careful of big and small letters. The number is 5. So yeah, there you have it. This is a very simple introduction to F#, and how to run the program and how to run F# interactive. I hope this was just somewhat useful, and I'm going to explain more about what you can do with stuff in another video. And you can always remember to stop the program. So yeah, I cannot find my mouse.